Most of you aren't subscribed. Make sure to subscribe, as it helps out the channel. Without further ado, kicking off the series, we see our MC, Makoto, narrating his normal life, waking up and having breakfast with the family, heading to school and attending archery practice after school, only to head home, have dinner, shower and read his father's newly released book. But when he closes his eyes, he is suddenly suspended in space, greeted by a glowing orb, which asks Makoto if he knows who they are. When Makoto shows off his confusion, the orb reveals that it is a god, and that Makoto will be reincarnated to another world immediately. When Makoto refuses, the orb reveals its true form, Tsukuyomi, a god tasked with choosing a hero, and sending the hero to save a world. As Makoto asks more and more questions, Tsukuyomi realizes that Makoto hasn't been told about his lineage. Tsukuyomi reveals that Makoto's parents are both from other worlds, which surprisingly makes sense, as Makoto has never met any relatives. Wondering why he of all people is chosen, he learns that his parents had promised a god to give over one of their children, and knowing that he doesn't want his two sisters to be put in a tough situation, Makoto agrees to be chosen. Promising to deliver a message to his family whilst he's gone, Tsukuyomi bestows divine power onto Makoto in preparation for his duties, but Makoto suddenly begins to disappear, as Tsukuyomi warns Makoto to be patient with the goddess he's being summoned by, as she can be quite tough to deal with. Thanking Tsukuyomi for the advice, Makoto appears before the goddess, blinded by her divine beauty. As the goddess tells Makoto about her world being invaded by demons and spirits, she insults Makoto for appearing so ugly. Not taking a liking to Makoto, the goddess demands that Makoto leave, but Makoto gets heated, prompting the goddess to show off her power. Knowing she'll be fine without Makoto's help, she sends Makoto to the edge of her world, where orcs and goblins reside, but out of pity, she grants Makoto the ability to speak, read and write any language in the world. Just like that, Makoto is flung through the sky of this new world, fearing that he'll die from such a height. Suddenly Tsukuyomi appears, intercepting Makoto from falling further, and apologizing for the goddess's words, as he didn't expect her to outright reject Makoto. As good news, Tsukuyomi reveals that the world he had grown up in was far harsher on his body, compared to this new world, so Makoto doesn't need to worry about being weak, but he must still be wary, as he can still die. With Tsukuyomi's spiritual body disappearing, Tsukuyomi wishes Makoto the best, only to disappear, wishing to meet again in the future. With Tsukuyomi no longer holding onto Makoto, Makoto falls from a height, but just as Tsukuyomi predicted, Makoto is quite durable. Since Makoto has nowhere to go, he begins wandering around for 3 days, unable to find any humans, animals or food. As night falls, Makoto begins to feel lonely, crying out for anyone, only to hear cries for help in the distance. Focusing in on the sound, Makoto darts in the direction of the sound, seeing a pig girl and a two-headed dog about to devour the girl. Dashing at the creature, Makoto gives the dog a light kick, but unknowingly his kick tears off one of the dog's heads, killing it due to blood loss. Stopping the girl from running away from fear, Makoto introduces himself, showing the girl that he's not scary. As they chat, Makoto learns that he is currently in the wastelands, where no humans reside, and that the girl's name is Emma, a Highland orc. Wondering if he can visit Emma's village, Emma reveals that she can't return home, as she's been nominated as a sacrifice. Apparently, her village has been plagued with fog, so her village has been offering sacrifices to Shen, as a means to stop the fog from interfering with their crops' need for sunlight. Thanking Makoto for saving her, Emma brings Makoto to a place where he can finally eat. Sharing the table with some boars, they both reveal how they heard humans are terrible people, but think Makoto is a demi-human, as he is so ugly. Seeing Emma levitating some bowls, Makoto wonders what she is doing, to which she replies she is using simple transportation magic. Curious if he can learn magic, he asks Emma to show him a spell, where she begins channeling a spell, conjuring a fire in her hand. Going after her, Makoto shockingly mimics the fire spell, only to be instructed by Emma to imagine the fire as a ball, which causes Makoto to shoot the fire into a nearby wall. Amazed at how fast Makoto learned the spell, Emma asks about Makoto's level, bringing out a scroll, as a crowd gathers, believing Makoto is at least level 100. Upon touching the scroll, Emma announces Makoto is level 1, offering to teach him more magic, to cheer him up. The next morning, Emma wakes up, spotting a letter that Makoto had left behind. With the spells and equipment he had acquired yesterday, Makoto has set out to deal with this Shen creature, demanding sacrifices. Knowing he should at least warm up, Makoto is able to cast a fire spell without incantation. On top of that, by reshaping the spell in his head, Makoto is able to create a bow and arrow, firing off a single arrow that hits a target, exploding upon impact. Having not anticipated the massive explosion, Makoto realizes that there were some people he had accidentally blown up. As they talk to Makoto, he realizes that they are clearly bad guys, who feel sorry for Makoto, as he's destroyed Shen's property. As the bad guys perish, a red smoke begins to encase Makoto, who believes that Shen is meant to be a massive clam, like in the stories he's read, but here Shen is a dragon. Immediately dashing at Makoto, Makoto is barely able to dodge the dragon's movements, as the red mist is obscuring his vision. Encasing himself with magic, he begins to read the dragon's movements, dodging Shen's advances. Knowing that he can win, Makoto activates a hidden skill, allowing him to see Shen clearly, whilst casting several fireballs near Shen, who thinks nothing of Makoto's magic. But when struck by a single fireball, Shen sustains huge damage, wondering how fire could harm its fire-resistant body. With no time to think, Makoto sneaks in close, pummeling the dragon several times. Makoto brings the dragon to the ground. Believing the fight is over, Makoto drops his guard, allowing Shen to catch Makoto with some illusion magic. Brought back to his old life, Makoto is alone with Hasegawa, who suddenly confesses to him. Knowing that this is so strange, Makoto attempts to reject her, but is forced to accept her proposal to stop her from crying. After the confession is done, Makoto reveals that he knows this is all an illusion, as he reveals his hidden skill. Makoto can create a zone around himself, which allows him to manipulate the space however he pleases. This means he can also enhance his body, whilst in the zone. Thanking Shen for making him stronger, Makoto breaks out of Shen's illusion spell, but realizes that Shen is no longer hostile. Apologizing for attacking Makoto, Shen asks that he form a contract with it, offering to be Makoto's companion, and in exchange Shen wants to see Makoto's memories from another world. Seeing as there is no downside, Makoto agrees, which triggers the pact ceremony. With both Shen and Makoto glowing, Shen realizes that Makoto is too powerful, forming an 80-20 pact in Makoto's favor. Out of nowhere, Shen suddenly transforms into a gorgeous woman. Now in front of the newly transformed Shen, Makoto is kinda sad, as he wanted to soar through the sky, with Shen's dragon form, as it makes travel way faster. Shen reveals that since the pact between them is 80-20, in Makoto's favor, the weaker one normally is forced to take the form of the more dominant one, hence why Shen is now a human. Either way, Shen is fine with being a human, as whilst she had trapped Makoto in her illusion, she had taken a liking to Makoto's memories involving samurais from the Edo period. Realizing that Shen has taken a liking to his historical dramas in his memory, Makoto asks that Shen at least change her outfit, but Shen has no problem with Makoto admiring her beauty. Changing topics, Shen gets serious, creating a gate and revealing that she is in charge of a demi-plane in space, housing different demi-humans. Skeptical at first, Makoto soon realizes that this mysterious plane is massive, wanting to know more about this place. Shen thinks for a bit, but realizes this place was supposed to be a space of complete darkness, but has somehow changed since last checking. Approaching a persimmon tree, Makoto and Shen munch on some delectable fruit, all whilst Makoto spots several plants that he recognizes. Activating his skill, Makoto expands his zone, scanning the area in the zone, only to realize that this place is huge. Wondering about the endpoints of this demi-plane, Makoto learns that things can only enter and exit this area through Shen's mist, so the gods may be unable to directly interfere with this demi-plane. Wondering if they could create a village in this town, Makoto asks Shen if she was terrorizing the Highland orcs, learning that she had nothing to do with it. Knowing that they should clear things up, they head out of Shen's mist, only to spot Emma frantically running towards them. Barely with any breath, she asks Makoto not to fight Shen, but Shen butts in, introducing herself. Teasing Makoto for attacking a woman, Shen surprises Emma, who wonders why the invincible dragon Shen is a human. Filling Emma in on their battle, Shen states that Makoto and her have formed a pact, where Makoto is the dominant partner. As some proof, Shen passes Emma some of her scales that fell off during her battle with Makoto, but when Emma still doesn't believe her, Shen releases her dragon aura, scaring Emma to sleep. As the three return to Emma's village, we see all the villagers dancing and celebrating the good news. As Emma serves Makoto some food, he asks for Shen's whereabouts, learning that she must have gotten too drunk and is fast asleep. Showing her gratitude, Emma officially thanks Makoto for clearing up the misunderstanding with the sacrifices, but also saving her life. Shy about compliments, Makoto states that it was actually Emma that taught him about magic, and that Emma shouldn't feel indebted to him. Zooming out, we see Shen and an orc villager watching Makoto and Emma chat, with Shen noting how strange Makoto is, revealing that he had saved this village, avenging all those that were sacrificed before Emma, without a reason. Wanting to thank Makoto himself, the villager is offered by Shen to come stay in her demi-plane. The next day, Makoto sees every single orc in the village packed up and ready to move to Shen's demi-plane. Demanding to know what Shen did overnight, Shen reveals that it was because of their contract that magically gave life to her demi-plane. Plus, quality of life should be far greater than here in the wastelands, as the water, air and environment is high quality. Worried about the possible creatures that may attack the orcs, Makoto turns to see a mini Shen, wondering if she is Shen's child. Insulted, Shen reveals that the little Shen is a fragment of her true body, which Makoto notes is crazy, as she should tell him what abilities she has. Checking a final time if all the villagers want to live in Shen's demi-plane, Makoto begins thinking of how to transport all of them, but within seconds, Shen absorbs all the villagers into her demi-plane, using her mist, shocking Makoto. With the orcs immediately getting to work, gathering materials to build their new town, we cut to Makoto juggling water, darkness, fire, earth and thunder spells in his palm. Knowing that water is his strongest affinity, Makoto notes how by focusing on one element, he can cast multiple water spells at once. At the same time, Shen begins fangirling over the dramas she's watched through Shen's memories, demanding to watch more, but Makoto rejects her, asking why he is the master of her demi-plane. Shen states that since he is her master, he is also the master of her belongings, including the demi-plane. Annoyed, Makoto forbids Shen accessing any more of her memories, which she reveals she has already recorded most of his memories, but wants to spend more time with her master. Wondering how much of his memories Shen has seen, Shen heads out, attempting to find out a better way to record Makoto's memories, as her current method requires Makoto to be stationary. Turning around, Makoto spots his memories that Shen had recorded floating around, spotting a memory of a picture he and his family would take every year. Remembering that his parents are actually from this world, Makoto reasons that it would be smart to check out what his parents did here, setting the goal of visiting a human village first. At the same time, a dwarf runs through a forest and is cut down by a huge creature, deemed the Black Disaster. Checking up on some orcs working cutting down trees for material, Makoto learns that they are having trouble cutting down tougher trees. Helping out, Makoto activates his ability, having called it Kai. Makoto projects a zone around a small sword he has, strengthening the blade's sharpness. With the enhanced blade, Makoto easily cuts through the tree, shocking the orcs. Seeing one of the orcs injured, Makoto activates his Kai ability, healing the orc, noting how Makoto healed his wound without mana. This would explain how Shen could incense him during their battle. Trying out the ability on himself, Makoto realizes that he is unable to heal himself, but is interrupted by Shen. Carrying an injured dwarf, Makoto wonders what happened, but suddenly a massive spider breaks into Shen's demi-plane. Asking if Shen can help out, Shen states that she'll leave the creature to him, finding out that Shen had encountered the spider before, but had left it be. Knowing that the spider is a bug type, Makoto wonders if it is weak to fire, dodging the spider's charge, only to cut off one of its legs. Creating a fire source in the air, Makoto encases his sword in flames, but realizes the spider has disappeared, appearing above him, spitting out its webs. Cutting through the webs, Makoto manages to sever some of its legs, but is shocked to see the creature's insane regeneration. Changing strategies, Makoto conjures his flame bow, shooting an arrow, only to follow up, using the fire source in there, and impaling the spider with a fire spear from above. Seeing the spider not perishing, Makoto watches as the spider begins absorbing his fire magic, healing itself. Off to the side, Shen learns that the dwarf she saved is an elder dwarf, who was barely able to leave a scratch on the creature. Creating a volley spear, Makoto is surprised to see that the spider simply tanked all the damage, only to regenerate the wounds. Suddenly the spider changes speed, catching Makoto off guard, breaking past his Kai zone, and impaling him onto a tree. Approaching swiftly, the spider begins devouring Makoto, but Makoto gets serious, releasing a huge explosion, blowing the spider back. Charging up several fire spells, Makoto barrages the spider with flames, simultaneously shooting and recasting the same spell. Following up, Makoto conjures a water bow, shooting a huge blast of water, sending the spider flying back into the mountains. Seeing Makoto collapse from exhaustion, Shen gets a bad feeling, as the spider has regenerated, grabbing a hold of Makoto before Shen can intervene. Surprisingly, the spider is in love with Makoto, embracing him, but Shen manages to pull him out of the spider's grasp. As the spider suddenly speaks, Shen asks if the spider remembers her, but the spider states that all it cares about is Makoto, getting jealous when she learns that Shen is Makoto's slave. Hearing that, the spider decides to form a pact with Makoto, only for Makoto to wake up in the presence of a gorgeous girl. Asking about how he's still alive, Makoto learns that Shin, her smaller self, and Emma all work together to heal his beat-up body, especially Emma, who is amazing at healing magic. Turning to the girl in front of him, Makoto demands to know who this mysterious girl is, only for her to reveal that she is the spider he fought. Shocked, Makoto wonders how she was able to form a pact with him, when he didn't agree to one, but the girl states that she offered her body and soul, forcing a pact, weirding Makoto out. Joining the conversation, the dwarf and Shen are happy to see that Makoto is alright, but he's clearly annoyed that things happened whilst he was asleep, but reasons that it would be better to have the spider be in its human form. Speaking up, the dwarf asks if he can chat with Makoto privately, to which Shen adds that this dwarf is a special subrace of dwarfs known as elders, able to craft sacred or noble artifacts. Introducing himself as Baron the Elder Dwarf, he thanks Makoto for getting rid of the black spider, as his village will live in peace. But Makoto knows that Shen had made up the lie regarding the spider becoming a girl, saying Makoto was able to break the curse, as a way for the dwarf to accept what is happening. As a request, Baron asks if he may move to this area where Makoto lives, surprised that Makoto has no problem with that. But Shen butts in, demanding that Baron and his village must plan out the town, provide armaments and pay tax for using the land. With Baron accepting the conditions, he notes that it may take a while to convince the heads of his village, but Shen gives Baron some of her scales, which Baron knows can be used to bribe villagers to relocate. Wanting to find out what his parents had accomplished in this world, Makoto has been traveling every day by foot, as a means to find civilization. Finally spotting a human village off in the distance, Makoto is called by Shen, who has something important to talk about. With both Shen and the Spider Girl there, they both demand to be named by Makoto, as their old names are boring. Thinking of boring names, the girls get annoyed, refusing to accept such ugly names, even fighting for who will get named by Makoto first. With Shen pushing the Spider Girl over, Shen asks Makoto to give her a name, growing anxious that Makoto can't think of one. Pondering for a bit, Makoto settles on Tomo, inspired by the most feared female samurai in history. Suddenly Tomo begins to glow, stating that when a servant is named by their master, they'll receive a strength boost, but Tomo also mentions how different names will give different boosts. Nonetheless, Tomo likes the name Makoto has given her, prompting the Spider Girl to ask for a name as well. Asking the Spider Girl if she prefers to be named something, she states that she'll humbly accept any name from Makoto, her self-proclaimed husband. Thinking for a bit, Makoto decides to give her the name Mio, representing her new life as a human, along with his preferred element, water. Seeing Makoto put so much thought into naming her, Mio can't help but fall deeper in love with Makoto, but he states that it isn't that deep. A little time later, Tomo and Mio had set up a ceremony, welcoming all the new species sharing that land, whilst also introducing their new names. Letting the crowd decide, everyone agrees to call Makoto, young master, with Makoto forced to accept that title. Taking a chance to greet the new species personally, Makoto chats with the leader of the elders in the dwarf village, In disbelief that Makoto, a human, is able to command Mio and Tomoe, such powerful creatures. Eld wonders if Makoto is being instructed by a god, which makes Makoto think of the goddess that turned him away, growing more and more angry with every thought of the goddess. Seeing Makoto dislike the goddess, Eld gets happy, revealing that he and his village personally disagree with the gods themselves. Next, Tomo introduces her followers, the 1001st lizards, creatures with affinity of water and air, and all don beautiful blue-green scales. But Makoto asks that Tomo should have told him she has followers, which she adds that there will be too many to go through. Up next, Mio introduces her followers, the Alk, creatures that can regenerate just like Mio. Seeing her followers so quiet, Mio threatens to eat them if they don't serve Makoto properly, prompting them to introduce themselves. Wrapping up the ceremony, Makoto asks that Mio and Tomo fill in Eld on the rules for living here, asking that the girls are free to choose where they'll be living, and that they should keep the bickering to a minimum. Rushing off, Makoto's curiosity of the human village overcomes him, spotting a blonde girl in the distance. As he approaches, the girl suddenly points in his direction, running off whilst crying out that there is a monster. Turning around, Makoto notes how it is just him, brushing it off as a coincidence. As he approaches the village gates, he spots a huge crowd of humans, demanding that Makoto, a monster, not come near their village. As the villagers scare Makoto away, he realizes that the goddess had given him the ability to interact with all creatures, but humans. Depressed, Emma, Shen and Mio have a chat with Makoto, revealing that the language of the humans are called Common, being the most common language known, and that all three of them can speak it. Cheering Makoto up, the girls state that Makoto's appearance is the issue, which Makoto doesn't appreciate, as he knows he's not the best looking. Clearing things up, the girl states that it's not his looks, but his mana that is the issue, as it's pouring out of him, making him appear as if he were a creature with the strength of 5 demon lords combined. Trying to suppress his mana, Makoto only manages to remove a little bit, switching up plans, as he'll first have to learn the common language, but also get a mask, as the humans already know what he looks like. With 1 week passing, Makoto is finally able to read and write the common language. The week after, Makoto is gifted a ring by the dwarves, meant to drain a creature's mana until death, but upon putting it on, the ring breaks, being too weak for Makoto. A month passes and Ms. is helping Makoto with pronunciation, but Makoto notes how magically writing what he needs may be more useful. Interrupted, the dwarves show Makoto their new ring, Dropnir, able to not only absorb, but compress his mana, glowing red when it's reached its limit and should be removed. Ready to head to the village, they use the excuse of transferring goods as merchants to get into the village, but at the same time, a mysterious girl looks over them. Passing through the market area, they eventually wound up visiting the Zetsuya Adventures Guild, but get suspicious looks from the receptionist. Luckily, Mio and Tomo convince the receptionist otherwise, allowing Makoto to write out his speech without suspicion. The receptionist states that upon registering, every adventure starts at rank E, but there are special quests with high danger, but the rewards will be huge, allowing for possible rank ups. Assuming Makoto is part of the Merchants Guild, Makoto is forced to lie to the receptionist, checking out the various quests. Learning that the highest ranking adventure in town is Mill's Ace, rank SS and level 444. Turning around, Makoto sees Mio and Tomo measuring their levels, with both of them maxing out level 400 scrolls. Trying out a level 1600 scroll, we learn that Tomo is level 1320, whilst Mio is level 1500. Refusing to accept Mio as a higher level, Tomo demands to be remeasured, but the receptionist states that Mio and her are both the strongest ever known adventurers. Receiving her adventurer's card, Tomo learns that after her and Mio is the adventurer Sophie Bulga the Dragon Slayer, having a level of 920, and achieving the feat of slaying a Lancer dragon, someone that Tomo apparently knew. Off to the side, Makoto measures his level, sad to see that he's still level 1, placed in rank E. With evening arriving, the three visit an inn, asking for 2 rooms, only to be shocked at the expensive price, being 6 gold per night. Flashing her high rank, Tomo smashes a hole in the ground, threatening the inn's receptionist, which makes him lower the price to only 2 gold. Able to rest for a bit, without his disguise, Makoto notes how the prices in the village are way too expensive, and that the villagers are acting suspicious. Setting out to grab some food, Makoto has Tomo guard their carriage of goods, as he along with the girls know that they are being targeted, as their merchant title is drawing in attention. That night, Tomo is alerted by some attackers, all whilst Mio and Makoto's date is interrupted by a little girl. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like and comment.